Yo, friends, here we are again, back with Zentangle Day 19. We got three new patterns today. Most of them, well, actually, all three of them, all very geometric with a little bit of organic that ends up being geometric. But I'm excited with these. I'm excited to see where this goes. And yeah, let's get into it. Before we get started, you're definitely going to need a pencil. You will also need a black pen and maybe even a marker to get things started. All right. The three patterns we're going to be looking at today are Rain, Cubine, and Beeline. Yeah. So as we begin with our Zentangles, you want to make sure that you're gonna make sure you create a card. I do this by always starting with 4 points. I erased that one. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And imagine that I'm dropping a string down, right? And I'm allowing it to kind of make its shape. And this is going to allow us to find the outside lines as well as the inside lines. And I'm doing this with pencil because what I'm going to allow is I'm going to allow my pattern to fill this space and not draw a heavy outline around things. If you look here, right, there's no hard line. What I did was I let these pieces end at the line, and that way it shows us where things begin and end. Like this, right? Sometimes you may need it for a visual effect, but we're going to try to do these without adding in this hard edge. We're going to let the object define its own lines, all right? So let's jump into today's cards, all right? So the first pattern we have today is called Rain. And Rain is one of these patterns that works a lot like a kind of accent piece a little bit. I like patterns like this because they become very nice in little nooks and crannies, or maybe areas where, like, there's an opening because you have a circle or something that shoots off the edge, or maybe there's just an interesting little spot that you think could use an almost floral type pattern. All right, and let me show you how Rain works. We're going to be drawing these finger-like lines that go up, and then we're going to be creating this zigzag type, almost electric type feel to go with those lines. Those get filled in, and then this is a pattern that kind of comes pre-standard with an aura already attached to it and kind of ready to go. So if I had a space that I was working with, see here, it's kind of a teardrop shape that I use a lot in my patterns, or in making these cards, I should say, because it shows up a lot when we're working with kind of that idea of a line dropping. All right, there we go. All right, so we're gonna start by drawing these like fingers. Okay, we'll start here. I'm gonna let this one kind of like flow a bit. I'm gonna give these a little space. I'm gonna let that one kind of buck the system. I'm gonna let that one go all the way up. So I just got three here, and I could do more if I wanted to, but I'm gonna stick with the simple three. Okay. Now once I have these, I'm going to create a zigzag line, but I want you to notice something. It always ends kind of sloping down back on this line. So I'm actually going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to kind of like slope a line up like that, and then I'm going to make my zigzag pattern. And when you do this, you can pick any angle. You can come kind of like a 45 out, or you can go really sharp back in if you would like. That's really up to you. You can keep it random. You can have little short triangles that hang over, or they can be nice and exaggerated. This is really up to you aesthetically. But we're going to make sure that this line goes all the way up and touches the top of that line there. All right? And we're going to do that for all three. And I can change which side these things start on. All right, and one more. I'm gonna go this way. Now here I put a little curve on it, and that's okay too. But we want to make sure that it is still kind of this zigzag shape. All right. Now before I move on any further, I'm going to go back and kind of hit this with my marker. I want to go and fill this in now that I've got it nice and drawn out. Go back over this line. I say this a lot in videos, but just go for it. You know, make it happen. This process is about being zen and being creative and kind of, you know, pushing outside your comfort zone just a little bit, you know? So if you mess up, it's not the end of the world. Just do your best. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. All right. And now, like I said, we're going to fill these in. All right. I'm going to fill mine in black, but if you think about it, you could fill them in with another color if you'd prefer. You know, a gray, maybe you want to shade it in. But I'm just going to go with the black. Especially with this is just being an example. When I move over to make this in my journal, yeah, I may decide differently. But for now, I think this is going to be great. Right. And then we got to throw it way back. I don't even remember how far back. To week. It's got to be like around 11 or day 11. We did auras, all right? And the way auras work is they just kind of go around each of these shapes. Now, with this one, I try to think of an order, like which one of these would be in front. And I'm going to do that one first. And I'm going to do that because as pieces get a little closer, you may have to make a decision on which one is in front. So I'm just going to go in with this one. I could use a thinner marker if I wanted to. You don't have to stick with the same one. And I'm going to kind of loosely retrace my steps here. Right? And try to leave a little space all the way around this. You know, and if it's not perfect, that's okay. Whew, right there. See how close that got? Alright, let's bring this back down. Alright. So if this one's in front of, we're going to let the line for this one kind of sneak behind that one. And that's okay. I'll do it last. But you see here too, right? Kind of got some open space. That's alright. It's pretty neat actually. It's like these things carry like an electrical charge or something. They've got this little aura around them. Yeah? Alright. Now, as we get kind of to the end of this part of this, we kind of need to start thinking about how to finish this space up. And one of the things that I think would be a good idea would just be to kind of shade in the area, but leave the aura alone. So we're going to leave this aura space nice and white, right? And if I have it in an area like this, you know, I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to give it a nice shade in. I'll try to be quick, friends. Although I do want it to look good. Now with the pencil, you should definitely do this lightly. And when you're kind of done shading a little bit, smearing a little bit, go back in and erase around these shapes within the aura to add, like I said, just a little, you want to have that little touch of, hey, this thing's left alone. And if you accidentally drew outside of this line just a smidge, that's okay too. But I'm going to shade in this line. I'm not going to like draw around it. I'm just kind of shading in. I'm going to let that value create this edge. It's kind of something I feel some people kind of fall away from, is thinking everything has to be outlined perfectly, right? And sometimes you see this line here, I'm moving it out just a little bit. Sometimes that's okay too, especially if you like this is the first thing you're doing, which probably is because it's the order in the video. You know, I will modify my shapes all day. That's why I use a pencil, right? So I can make mistakes, I can make changes, right? And by coloring this in, just shading it in lightly, it's going to cause some space to happen here. You know, just a little space. I'm going to come back to this a little later. As you can see, my marker is trying to quit on me, but I will shade this in. And I might even do a little bit of a fade, kind of like from the top to the bottom, and let the bottom get just a little darker. Just because I kind of like that look aesthetically, but you know what? That's on me, not on you. So you can kind of make those decisions for yourself. You know, it's almost like this little petal. You know, it's getting a little darker as it gets closer to the center. But yeah, that's Rain. Pretty interesting one for a name called Rain. But yeah, so that is our first card. All right. Our next card is called Cubine. Cubine. And it's not very complicated. It looks like a lot of designs we've had in the past. But again, I'm just going to kind of create a shape to fill in. Well, there's like an acorn or something shape I have here. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to start by creating a grid. Some of you may be inclined to do this with a ruler, and that is definitely up to you. I'm just going to kind of go for it. Right, it's a little rectangular, but that's okay. But yeah, so I got my little grid here, you know, nice and drawn in. And then what I'm going to do is, once I have my grid, I'm going to go ahead and hit it with my marker real quick. Marker in, marker in, marker in. Notice I'm stopping at the lines. I got a little bit right there too. Marker in here. Marker, marker, marker. All right. Now, once I have my lines kind of drawn in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting some horizontal lines, or, you know, whichever direction as you see. It's just going to connect these points together, like corner, corner, corner. So if it needs to be a little curved, that's okay. If it's not perfectly straight, no one's going to know. Except for you. Sorry, my dogs. There we go. So now that's nice and filled in, all right? From there, what we're going to do is we're going to create a little square at the same corner of each of these boxes, kind of on the right side. You could do the left side if you'd like, but we're going to do on the right side. And this little box is going to just kind of frame in this whole square. It's going to give it a little point of direction, right? And I'm just going to continue. So in every box where I can see this corner right here, I'm going to draw that little box. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want to make sure it's nice and filled in. You know, you don't have to like measure this distance or anything like that, because mine aren't all going to be the same. Yours might all be the same, and you may want to measure, but you don't have to. It's supposed to be Zen. Now, for these boxes that go off the page, I'm just going to stop right where that line is. Here, I'm probably not going to see one, not going to see any of these. This one, I will see just a little bit. This is where you have to really think about the space you have and what's going on, right? Okay, So I think that's all of these little points I can make. Um, the next step, the final step actually, is to choose a side, top or bottom of each of these, and you're gonna shade it in. So this is gonna create, it's gonna create an area where it looks like these are like two plates that meet each other, and one of them is catching shadow and the other is not. On my example, I chose the top side. So just in each one of these squares, I am going to shade in the top side. Again, my marker is dying. I apologize. And I'm going to be careful that I don't accidentally color in a space that I don't mean to. Because even in this one, where it touches this line, I'm definitely going to have to add some color. But I want to make sure I'm not hitting areas that don't need it. Heck yeah, there we go. That's Cubine. Not super complicated. It has a nice visual effect. I'm going to go back and erase my pencil lines. You know, I'm not going to need those anymore, right? Because this is going to have a nice edge for us, right? This would be one of those you can use to fill in any space in any upcoming or current Zentangle. It'll fit anywhere, right? You can make these big, small. It's really up to you. Maybe you can combine them with one, even make a really cool tangulation. All right. Ooh, sorry, friends. All right. This next one is called Beeline, and boy, is it interesting. So I'm gonna start with a shape here. I'm gonna do like a little oval, almost like a thumbprint. All right. Now for the Beeline, we're gonna start with a series of horizontal lines. Again, you may want to do these with a ruler, but you do not have to do these with a ruler. I'm going to leave a little space in between these, but this is also one of those that you could go heavier, like wider, or you can go more narrow, a little lighter, with this distance here. Okay. Some of that might be the space you're trying to fill or the visual effect you're trying to get. Now, this little guy right here is deceptively complicated on its pattern, right? So what we're doing is we're creating this series of lines that kind of goes like they're like diamonds, like that. All right. But when we move over to the next series of diamonds, they're offset. So like if you slid these over, they would fit within. And this is why this one's a little complicated. And then those lines will kind of be in between, and it'll kind of make these little boxes when we're done. So we're making these diamond shapes, right? And if you look here, if I slid this one down, right, it would nestle in between there. If I slid this one up, it would nestle in between there, right? So I'm gonna start by drawing very lightly some vertical lines. I'll put one dead center just because a lot of times we start in those areas. And I'll almost make these square-ish. Now I'm doing this light line just to help me keep track of what's going where. And you'll see in just a second. Alright, so starting with this one I put in the center. Alright, I'm going to pick a point right there. Alright, and I'm going to go, alright, you're going to go out, out, in, like a kite. Right? So I'll do it again. Out, out, in. And if I go too far, just erase. So we're doing pencil first. Notice I'm not just going for it on this one. It's a little more than I'm used to. I'm trying to be conscientious of how far out I'm going on each side, because I do want this to look good when I'm finished with it. All right, so I'm going to move over to my next line I drew, and again, I'm offsetting this pattern. So I started here, kind of making an X, right? So if I started here, if I started in the same area, instead of making an X right here, I'm going to be making a diamond right here. So kind of see that if I slid that over, it would just fit in. All right, and I'm going to repeat that pattern across this area. Right, and if I mess up again, I can always erase. All right, I'm going to move to the other side, and again, same thing. I'm just going to make sure that I am repeating, or I am alternating this pattern. So this side's going to be like the opposite side. There, and there. Right, and I think this might have a line here. That's a little too. May just have a little bit here. There it is. All right, and I may see just a little tidbit right there. All right, so now that I have this very complicated diamonds kind of drawn in, what we've actually done is we've created these cubes. I'm gonna erase the interior of these diamonds I drew just a little bit to help show you the effect that happens when we do this. All right, now from here I'm gonna do my tracing, and again I'm gonna leave these areas nice and open. Right, I kind of erased that space in between. So let's see here, we've got there, and I'm drawing these just as big old X's. All right. Oh, X, X, X. A little bit right there. Go on this side. All right, now, not the diamonds, but everything else, we're gonna draw. This line kind of comes back. So these same horizontal lines that we had, they're not gonna go through the diamond opening, but they'll go everywhere else. So they'll go there, kind of wherever there's the center point of the X, they go through. This one throws me off a little bit. You gotta watch yourself. I almost messed up. Yeah, there's the pattern. So it's these little like stair steps, right? Which is pretty cool. What the recommendation for this one is that you kind of decide on like a tone, and you draw like where the light would be hitting that object in that same tone. So if I chose this dark gray for like the top, so this would be where like one face is hitting, and this is like a side piece, a corner. I'll go through here. Oh, see a spot I missed right there, and that's okay. This would get kind of filled in. This would get filled in. Filled in. Okay, and then I'm going to choose to leave this side white, and then I need to fill this one in, but I don't, my other marker is kind of dying on me, so I'll see what I can do with it. All right, or maybe I'll leave this side white and I'll shade this in light for space reasons. And you could do this with just shading too. I know I've got markers again, but right. So when you add this value in here, it really starts to differentiate the pattern. You can kind of see them as little stairs, step, 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 right? But yeah, so this is Beeline. Again, this is one of those that can fill any shapes. It's just a little more complex. You know, I can't wait to see what you guys do with these 3 new patterns. And we'll catch you next time. Y'all be good.